What's up, Vox&Hops heads? Here we are, Vox&Hops episode number 36. Thank you all for tuning in, checking it out. For those of you, this is your first time, welcome to Vox&Hops. I'm Matt. I scream for a band called Cryptopsy, and I love craft beer. And I got a bunch of really cool friends, and I like to chat with them and share my chats with all of you. I hope that you had a good week. I had a good week. I'm back home. It's been a few weeks. I'm back home from my European tour alongside Ingested, Glory Hole, Guillotine, Insight, Night Rage, and Demonical. It's nice to be home. I'm enjoying it. I'm getting back into the groove of being back home and just enjoying life with my family. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. I had a nice weekend. Up here, I live in Canada, in Montreal, and, you know, spring has still not arrived. It's quite cold, but I've been surviving. I'm home for a little bit, and I take off again in early July. Specifically, on July 5th, I'm going to be in Asia, the first Asian tour for Cryptopsy called The Laws of the Flesh 2019. It all starts in Singapore on July 5th, and then we go to Bangkok, Indonesia, Vietnam, Taiwan. We have 2 dates in Japan, one in Osaka, and the other one's in Tokyo. And we finish off in Korea. I'm super stoked about this. It's going to be a lot of airplanes, but I have faith that the crowds are going to make it all worth it. The Laws of the Flesh 2019 coming up. All the tickets for that are available on the Cryptopsy website and will be in the description of this. Last week we also announced November we are hitting up Latin America alongside Origin. First time that I ever played with Origin was one of my earliest tours in Cryptopsy. It was a Canadian tour. It was Cryptopsy, Origin, and The Last Felony. Way back in 2008. I'm stoked to get back on the road with Origin. The Death Alliance 2 Latin America tour. It all starts November 6th. It runs through the 16th. We're going to be hitting 2 dates in Mexico. We're hitting Monterrey. We're hitting Mexico City. We're doing Guatemala. And then we're going to El Salvador, Costa Rica, Panama, Colombia, Peru, Chile, and Argentina, as well as we're ending in Brazil. Super stoked to get back to South America. It's going to be brutal. A lot of blast beats, a lot of screaming. It's going to be a lot of windmilling. I'm super stoked to get back down there. Today on the podcast, you guys get to hear my chat, which I had with my sound man and tour manager from the Hell Over North America tour, the one, the only, the great Alexander Kendrick. All you guys get ready to hear Alexander Kendrick. He's a funny dude. Here it is, Vox&Hops, episode number 36.
I warn you, what you are about to hear is very disturbing indeed.
What's up, everybody? Today I'm in Margate, Florida, with a friend who I've made on the road. You never know what you're going to get when you just get this crew thrown at you when you come out on tour. But 2 years ago, when I did Devastation on the Nation, I met this young man named Alexander Kendrick. He was our TM and our sound man on that one, and when we were coming through the States again, this time around with Aborted, I said, let's ask Alexander Kendrick. How are you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. I'm in the beautiful Margate, Florida, you know. We have a lovely day outside. Definitely sunny and not rainy at all.
No, it's definitely not raining at all.
No, not at all. I'm doing good, though. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm feeling good. I'm getting used to sleeping in the bandwagon.
Yeah, last night was a bit rough. It is. It's ups and downs, literally.
It's a luxury that we have it, so
yes.
I'm enjoying it, and I'm using it to do some interviews.
Mm-hmm.
Tell everyone a little bit about yourself. Who is Alexander Kendrick? What do you do?
I am a freelance tour manager and front-of-house audio engineer for maybe some of your favorite metal bands, whoever's listening. I would like to keep doing the Cryptopsy gig for that. You know, this has been a lot of fun. I've been doing Rings of Saturn for the majority of the last 6 years. It's kind of my go-to. They take me everywhere, international, blah, blah, blah. Aside from that, I'm just a little Georgia guy who sits at home in Georgia, but it's usually on tour for a minimum of 7 to 8 months a year.
You're a road dog. You're on tour much, much more than I am.
Yeah.
How do you mentally handle that?
It's actually a really good question. A lot of nights, tequila. But no, I feel like after the first couple weeks, you kind of just get used to it and go on the, you know, like the autopilot kind of mentality where it's just routine. And once you block into it, it's fine. And of course you miss home, you know. And for me, I miss my dogs and my cat. But I get pictures of them daily, so at least there's that.
I get pictures of my kids, and you get...
Yeah. It's like my furry little kids. Yeah.
I was brought a delicious beer that I'd like to share with you right now.
Yeah, I'm excited to have a taste. It smells delicious.
This was given to me by Aaron Mendiola back when we were in Austin.
Ah, yeah, the beautiful Austin.
He has a metal podcast called Metal and Beers Podcast, and I did an interview for that.
Very nice.
So he brought out an Imperial Stout aged in maple bourbon barrels with smoked vanilla. It's called Even More Metal, and it's by Jester King. And he said that this was a collabo with McKellar or Evil Twin, but I don't see that listed anywhere. It's got an 11.4 ABV.
Oh, wow.
It's gonna be a doozy.
Let's have a little taster.
A little taster. Cheers.
Cheers. Probably gonna have quite a nice beer stash after this.
For everyone at home listening, Alexander Kendrick has a beautiful mustache.
Oh, wow. Not exactly what I was expecting, but very delicious.
It's very boozy.
Yeah.
Very booze heavy.
It's definitely got like the strong, like almost like a strong ale kind of back, you know?
I don't really necessarily feel that smoked vanilla. I don't know if it's because it's too warm, maybe. I don't know.
These, I typically don't mind them at a room temperature.
No, I always drink mine.
Yeah. I just found the smell
delicious.
Yeah, I'm just getting nothing but the strong booze smell. Yeah, seems effective.
Oh, this will definitely do some work on us. Let's talk about how you got into this crazy world of TMing and sound. The classic story.
Yeah. So I had a really good friend throughout like middle school and high school that ended up opening a recording studio where I lived. And I was always really curious about just recording and the world of audio. I interned with him, if you will, for about a year and a half. I got an opportunity to work at a venue at home, and so I just used the information I had and used it in a live setting, which isn't exactly as conventional as it seems, because there's a lot of differences. And I was working at a venue for a while, and I did a festival, and a South Florida band, actually, called Abiotic, asked me if I wanted to tour with them, and they were going on a tour with the Faceless. I was very young at the time, so I said, hey, I'll sleep on it. I'll let you know in the morning, because I had them over in my house to sleep. And I had recently quit my day job, not even 2 weeks prior, and I thought about it, and I was like, hey, yeah, let's go. Faceless that's a cool band to do a first tour with.
Absolutely.
And I did it from there, and ever since then, I've just been networking, and Rings of Saturn was actually on that tour, so that's where I met them. And from there, it was just networking. I probably didn't start tour managing until about 2 years in. And then from there, I've just started pretty much TMing every gig I do if there's the need, you know, which not every time you need a proper TM, but for this thing, I'd like to think so.
Yeah, of course. Let's explain to people at home that don't understand what a TM is. What would their job be on a day-to-day basis on tour?
It's like the number one goal in my mind is to keep the artist and promoter separated and be the complete middleman. That way there's no need for any communication between, for example, Cryptopsy and tonight's promoter or any other artist and any other promoter. Just for example, though, stuff as easy as like, you know, with this, so the bandwagon, there's honestly, it's more so like road managing even. As far as setting bus calls to make sure we get to our show on time for load-in. And most times accommodating waters and towels.
I like to think we're a simple band.
Yeah.
We have simple
definitely
demands.
Don't ask much. Just a little water here, a couple towels there. If there's room for beer, sure. But that's pretty much the most simple way I could think of putting a tour manager. You're the middleman that makes everything happen that's supposed to come from the promoter and venue without the artist having to do any of it. Mm-hmm. And obviously settlements and stuff of this nature, doing all the money in between, you know, middleman for that. But it's really not too tedious of a job depending on which artist you're working for. I've had some who are definitely harder than others. Some that I will just never work for again. So, yeah, but Cryptopsy's not one of them. So.
Good to hear. Good to hear.
Yeah.
Let's switch gears. Let's talk about beer.
Yes.
Are you a craft beer enthusiast?
Yes, of course. I definitely find myself drinking liquor more nowadays, but there are my beers. Like, as you know, I'm a sucker for Le Fin du Monde.
That's true. Yeah. Unibrew represent.
Yeah, definitely. You actually sent me the glass what was it, almost 2 years ago or something of that nature. I still use it. Only for Unibrew, though. I won't put anything else in it.
Blasphemy.
Yeah, definitely. But there's a lot of good beer in Georgia. For example, like the Atalanta, that's sour.
Yeah, we're lucky.
I drink that on tap a fair amount at home.
Yeah, we had a fan bring out some of that
last night. It's a local Atlanta brew, so it's probably very fresh in the cans. I'm trying to remember the name of this other one off the top of my head. It's from the same brewery, but it's not called Atalanta.
Yeah, Nicole Elizalde brought us out 6-pack of the Atalanta.
Yeah.
Which is a tart.
It's very tart, like a raspberry, if I remember right. Blackberry. Yeah. The raspberry is Rapturous.
Yeah.
That's the one I really like, Rapturous.
It was pretty good.
It's not as tart, but it's got the full body of the sour. You know, it's got definitely a different back-end taste, than what you're having on the initial taste.
If you walk into a local place and you're buying bottles, a bottle shop stuff, what is something that you gravitate towards? If it's not a tequila night.
Yeah, right, which most are. I'm a big fan of Belgian beer, just in general. They do tend to get too sweet sometimes, so it really depends on the mood, I guess, for me, but I'm a big fan of Golden Monkey.
Okay, no, I haven't heard about that one.
It's a brewery, or that's not the brewery. The brewery's called Victory Brewing.
That's up near in Reading, though.
Yeah, it's right around Reading in Pennsylvania. I think Lancaster, maybe. But I was introduced to this beer, actually, by Eric Burke, who was filling in for Napalm Death in 2015. Every show of this tour, he had a rep bring cases and cases of Victory beer.
I need to speak to this rep.
Yes, I think so, because we got them at literally every show. So there were nights where he would just give me, here's 4 or 5 cases for Black Crown Initiate. I was like,
wow.
Oh, okay. It seemed as if he got a half pallet of this beer every day.
That's intense.
They also make a really good one called Dirt Wolf, which is a double IPA. It's 8.5 or 9, but they have a lot of really good beers. All their stuff is, even their simple Pilsners, are rather tasty, in my opinion. I'm not a big Pilsner fan, but
it depends. There's a
time and a place
for every beer,
Yeah. And
whereas a normal person will drink a PBR or a Coors, that's when I would reach for a Pilsner.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I'd like to think Corona's not my favorite beer at all, but if I'm on the beach, it's a perfect lager. Yeah, with a nice fresh lime.
Yeah, the lime has to be there, though.
Yeah.
Do you remember your first experience with alcohol?
Okay, this is a fun one. I was probably 15 years old. Sorry, Mom. And my mom actually caught me drinking one day, and she was none too pleased. So she said, well, if you want to drink, you're going to drink. You're not going to half-ass drink. If you want to drink, this is how, she says Keen, because that's her maiden name. So she goes, this is how a Keen drinks. We go out, she buys a bottle of Jaeger, a bottle of whiskey, and then I forget which beer she caught me with, but she bought a 30-pack of this beer, like a shit beer, like Bud Light or
Natural
something
Light.
like that. Yeah. And she said, you can invite one friend over. If you guys get through all of this, you may drink. If you don't, I cannot catch you drinking again, or it's going to be, a big issue. So obviously, me being a rebellious teenager, I tried, and it did not work. I woke up in the bathroom. Apparently, I was puking all night, and that was my first time getting drunk in my life. Because of course I'd had a beer before or something.
You got tipsy, but not wasted.
Yeah, not proper drunk, and that was my first time ever being proper drunk.
How long did you wait till the next time?
A while.
Did your mom's tactic
good while.
worked?
I think so. Yeah, because I steered clear for probably close to a year or two.
Okay. Yeah.
Afterwards, yeah. That was a very rough one for me. My first time getting proper drunk was also my first time blacking out. So
hand in hand.
Yeah.
What would be the first craft beer that you drank when you realized that, this just doesn't taste like cheap swill?
Yeah, right. I can't remember the name. I know it was an IPA, though, because it took me a lot of getting used to. So this was probably 2012, or 13, a lot, kind of close to when all the microbrews and the craft beers in the United States started picking up a lot. And remember, IPAs were always the first thing that everyone would always get on tap, at the local tap rooms, or even at just a restaurant. If they had any craft beer, it'd be an IPA. You wouldn't go and get a Kolsch or a sour or or anything like that, which I actually love Kolsch's now. But
smooth. Up there with Pilsners for me.
The guitarist from Within the Ruins, Joe, he owns a brewery in, oh gosh, New England area. I forget the state. Sorry, Joe. It's called Ten Bridge Brewery, and he has the idea of doing a Kolsch called Kolsch Klein, kind of like Coach Klein from the...
Yeah.
And nonetheless, I'm really curious to try this because he was telling me what all he was going to put in it, blah, blah, blah. And he actually makes my favorite double IPA in the country.
Really?
Yeah, I was really hoping that we can meet up with him. Massachusetts
I'm
is
hoping,
what it is.
or Rhode Island, where it is.
He's in Massachusetts, so yeah, we'll be in Rhode Island. It's probably not too far. Maybe we can get him to come out.
Yes, please.
Ten Bridge Brewery.
Yes.
It's very good.
Yes, please.
Owned by the metal for the metal.
You primarily work with metal bands.
Yes.
Have you
specifically these extreme fast ones.
Have you ever thought of doing different things like pop or rock or?
Yeah, I would take the opportunity in a heartbeat if I had nothing planned. I'm definitely not just limited to metal. I definitely have the most experience in this, extreme fast metal. But I would take the opportunity in a heartbeat. Just seems different, If Taylor Swift was like, "Hey, dude, do you want to come mix my left in-ear monitor?" Sure, I'm there.
Live, dude.
Yeah, just that one, But yeah, I definitely would.
What about walking into clubs like this tonight? And no disrespect to the club, there,
no, of course not. Just some are better than others.
It's just and us not having our own board, because a lot of times as a headliner we would bring our own mixing board so that you always have your own comfortable space, your own comfortable tool to work with. Now you're walking into a club and half the time you don't know what you're going to get before stepping through the doors.
Right.
How do you mentally prepare yourself for that moment?
Fortunately for this club, this is probably my 4th time being here. Every time I've been here, there's at least a minor audio upgrade.
Okay.
And this being another time where there is another minor audio upgrade.
They're investing in the club.
Yeah, and this club also has new owners now, which I found out. But also, no more smoking inside. Every time I've been here, there's been smoking, and that's always a damper. I'm a cigarette smoker, and I do not smoke inside. It's the worst thing ever.
Being a vocalist, I loathe when people smoke inside.
It's disgusting. But, so, knowing this venue, I kind of knew what I was walking into, but the first time I walked into it, I was like, oh, gosh, this is just a sports bar that happens to have a stage.
That's right, yeah.
And,
which we've seen a few of these places in the past few weeks.
It's been working, good crowds, but, I honestly try and expect the worst case scenario when I see
clubs
like this or any other capacity of this size.
Just mixing from an iPad.
Just from an audio perspective, I always expect the worst. And doing that, usually I have a pleasant surprise, except for the dreaded mono system in Memphis.
Mixing from an iPad.
Which is horrible. No talkback microphone, no changeover music. If you're a venue owner or a promoter, please make sure that does not happen at your club. 10 out of 10, nobody enjoys it.
Seriously, and the fans that are paying.
Yeah, they're dead silence for 15, 20 minutes on a changeover.
And then the PA blew, that we lost power halfway through our set.
We lost power. That was good. That was real good.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely clubs like this where it's working for your dollar, as opposed to the...
which is what I said to you as soon as the set finished. He said, we really worked you today.
Yeah. As opposed to, like the... like a festival, like a Summer Slaughter tour, say something like that, or, where you're going to like the House of Blues or something, where you have reliability to the fullest extent every day. And, a stage manager... an audio manager, all this extra crew, because there's not much crew on this tour. We
kept it close to our heart, and
yeah, definitely. And even amongst the other bands, there's not much crew, just even in general, and so just makes kind of things difficult. Because as an audio engineer and having 3 bands earlier on this tour, only 2 now, kind of gives you like the stage manager job title too, because we're having to run the clock, make sure everything's on time. If it doesn't, it looks bad on me, and then. Headliner, tour managers, none too pleased. So, just try and keep the chain of command, happy.
I think you've been doing a good job, and I know that we've been sounding really good. So
yeah, I'm actually really excited. Like way more stoked on this tour with the mixes than Devastation.
Really working.
Not sure what it is, but I'm just able to make it sound a lot better.
Good.
Yeah.
Switch gears and talking about horrible PAs, horrible systems. What about a horrible tour story?
My first time touring Europe, my least favorite tour of my life. It was 11 or 12 guys, 12, including the driver, 12 guys, and you know, like the conversion sprinters.
Yeah, with the bunks in the back.
Yeah, just like with a little hole to get up there, you know, you can fit like 3 if you have to, 2 comfortably.
Yeah. You guys were 3.
Yeah, it was a 3 up there, but I pretty much sat sitting up between Lucas Mann and Ian Bear of Rings. Our shoulders touched every day as we slept for 29 days.
Wow. That's not fun.
It was horrible. And it was winter over there as well. So all of our boots would be, you know, caked with snow, and we try and dry them out as best we could.
But you can't.
Yeah, so then the whole vehicle was just
a soppy mess.
Obscenely disgusting with smell. It was just overwhelming. And I probably went through 3 or 4 pairs of boots because once mine got rubbish enough, I would just throw them away.
Jeez.
There's no saving them because the sweat and everything would freeze. And then by the time you put them back on, you're just de-thawing the frozen sweat from the day before. And yeah, that was probably my least favorite tour as far as like just so you're sleeping sitting up.
I don't like that. I don't like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I probably would never do that again. I would take a hard pass on that tour.
Yeah.
No matter who it was, unless the pay was just enough for me to go to a chiropractor every day.
But if they could afford that, then
I'm pretty sure we would just be back in a nightliner.
Yes.
Which those are great.
Or at least like a Sprinter with enough beds for everyone.
Yeah,
if you count
or
the
perhaps
benches.
just one band in the Sprinter.
You were more than one
because
band.
we had 2.
Oh no. When we do the Sprinters, we do it just with Cryptopsy.
Yeah. See that'd be luscious.
Yeah. Shout out to David, our driver. We love you. Yeah.
We had us, Rings of Saturn, and one of the openers.
Okay.
And a shared vehicle.
Wow. That is a pretty horrible story.
That was not fun. Not at all fun. The shows were cool, but
what about your own project? Because people might not know that you're actually a musician as well.
Yes.
And it's
maybe not the best one.
It's called Gaia.
Correct.
And you put out some material last year, I want to say.
Yes.
And do you have any more in the works?
As of right now, it's like loosely in the works because I have about 3 to 4 songs done that I've tabbed out because I can write guitar, I know where the notes are, and I have theory behind everything, but I don't have the hand-eye coordination. So I'm able to compose on guitar via tablature. And one of my best friends growing up lives in Denver, Tim. He's a very big part of the project, and we write together. He sends tabs back and forth, blah, blah, blah. And so we're working on it very slowly. I should probably start practicing vocals again because I haven't done them in about a year. So.
It does take a little bit of time to fall into a pocket.
Definitely, especially when, like, for me, I'm doing them so inconsistently. Like, I may practice, if you say, for, you know, a month or 2 before I actually go in and record, trying to figure out tones, you know, and different, like, a layer effects and figure out what I want to match with what. And, but aside from that, it's just very loose in the works right now. I'd like to have Nick Shaw on it again for bass. He did all of our mixing and mastering on the last one. He wrote the drums too.
Which I think someone good to have in your corner.
Yeah. He's very well just overall. And again, shout out Nick, Black Crown Initiate, and Andy. I want to have Andy Thomas singing on the next one, but full time instead of one song.
I think every band should have Andy Thomas singing full time on every song. Shout out to Andy.
Yeah, the most angelic voice I think I've ever heard from a man.
From a pleasant body too.
Oh, the childbearing hips.
If Gaia was the bastard child of 2 bands,
oh goodness,
what bands would those be?
It's so weird because for me, okay, as far as the EP that we just did, the first song, like, they're all 3 very different. The first one is like a cynic, clean guitars. It's not really heavy at all. The second one is like a blackened death metal with like the orchestral stuff in the background. And the third one's just like a melodic death metal. So I'm trying to think of who, I don't know, I guess it'd be like if cynic boned, this is a hard one. Because I know that all of my writing inspiration comes from like Cynic. Because I'm trying to I want to write like less heavy stuff, and my other writer Tim is all about like the organic like 90s, early 2000s death metal.
Okay.
So whatever you would say, Cynic meets early 90s, 2000s death metal.
There you go.
Whatever you would call that. I can't think of the, I guess, proper band. But
What would your vocal approach be?
it's so weird because I sound different on every single song that we've done. Because I always like to try and change it up, at least for me, because I still haven't found tones that I want to do, like, primarily. But vocally, I remember hearing Whitechapel, like, 12, 13 years ago, and I was like, someone can make this noise?
And pronounce so well.
Yeah, and actually
that's what baffled me when I first heard that.
Yeah, it's insane, because then you can understand, but it's also such a deep guttural. And I remember that was probably my first vocal inspiration. Obviously, I can't do gutturals like that. I mean, I guess I haven't tried, but that was just what made me, like, totally just start trying. And then I would sit in my room just, you know, like making the weird noises. And then, of course, my mom was like, what are you doing?
Are you okay?
You're like 13. What are you doing? I'm learning
just like
pig squeals
do the
and
classic,
stuff like that.
Throw on a record and try to sing along to it? Or?
Yeah, and then I looked up a lot of YouTube videos, like a lot. And I actually, funny enough, Ian Bearer, the singer of Rings Now, had a huge YouTube following for vocal tutorials and covers. Yeah, like a lot of his videos have like hundreds of thousands of views.
That's amazing.
And, I was looking, and it turns out I was actually watching his videos before I met him, because I was looking on my Facebook memories, you know, and it shows you your posts, blah, blah, blah. And I posted something from like 2010 from on Facebook, but a YouTube link. And I was like, here's another like tutorial thing from Ian that I'm trying to learn, blah, blah, blah. And now we're like the best of friends.
And touring the world together.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
I didn't realize that I knew of him before then, but...
You should get him to coach you live now.
Yeah, right? But one of the ones that I learned the best as far as the YouTube videos goes was a dog bark approach.
Yeah.
Just try and make like the rough, you know, like the hot air, you know?
Yeah.
Not the forced or anything like that. And from there, I just kind of took me just everywhere from there. I couldn't learn anything high-pitched, like a high scream vocal at all for like 5 years. I was always doing lows and mids. And
if you had to pick, I have two separate questions. Personal favorite vocalists that inspire you to scream. That's my first question. And the second would be, who's the best vocalist you've mixed live? Oh. Two separate questions. Yeah.
Okay. A vocalist that inspired me to scream. I would say Phil was still in there. I don't know his name, but that band Annotations of an Autopsy.
Okay.
The super like crazy effect vocals, like the squeals and whatever have you. It reminds me of like a splash cymbal, or you know, like you use it just very selective and very just an accent. But some of those were my favorites, where it's you've got your consistent standard, you know, lows and highs, and then out of nowhere you've just got these monstrous squeals or whatever, you know, you like to call them, pig squeals. Best vocalist I think I've mixed live. As far as best, what would you say? Like just like consistency?
Consistency, technicality.
I think I would have to say like James from Black Crown, only because he did all the years of like the vocal coaching, and he's also a voice actor. Shout out James.
Yeah, he just
recorded with
amazing.
Sven in Austin
for the Doom
soundtrack.
Yeah, that's so cool.
And then he was also on what was it? The other one. It was an extended, like a downloadable content for Elder Scrolls.
Oh, cool.
But I've never heard someone just who'll have no warm up, nothing. He can just do nothing, and then goes on stage and just never misses a note.
Yeah, when I saw them in Montreal, I was very impressed.
Was that the Cattle?
The Cattle tour. Yeah.
Where we
in the same
informally
room.
met.
Yeah.
And number 2 would be you.
Oh, that's sweet. Complete different direction.
Yes.
This past Sunday. This is going to come out like much later than that, but you're a huge wrestling fan. We had a WrestleMania party in the bandwagon. Ken Bedini came up and watched the final matches.
That was a party.
Let's talk about wrestling.
Well,
why is wrestling so important to you?
I started watching it as a kid at a very young age. My mom told me she used to date a guy named Marty Jannetty in high school, which if you're listening and you don't know who Marty Jannetty is, he was a wrestler who came into the WWF at the same time as Shawn Michaels, and they were the tag team called The Rockers.
That's right.
And I had known about them, blah, 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 but I always thought my mom was joking. And I was probably like 8. And I come home from school, And Marty Jannetty's just in my house. And my mom's like, hey, we're dating again.
Whoa.
And that's what got me super big into it. And then
He was still wrestling at that point.
Correct. Yeah. It was like the last few years of it was like WWE or WWF, like national career, if you will. He's still on the indie circuits now. But just going around and traveling with him and then being able to actually meet the wrestlers that I've watched on TV for, so long as a little kid, it really took me to like another level of appreciation.
Were they nice with you?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I remember I was probably 16. I went to one of his live events in Orlando. We drove down from our house in Columbus, so that was a hefty drive.
Yeah.
It was a whole weekend event, but again, being 16, they all took me out to bars after the wrestling events. I'm going with these like wrestling legends, so
really?
No one's asking me anything when we're walking into the clubs or anything at the bars. And my mom's just, you can't take him in there, Marty. And next thing you know, I'm in these bars, and it was just crazy. Like Jake the Snake, all these people that are like, I don't know, I've just watched and seen so much, and then they're just like, hey, you want a beer?
That's awesome.
To little 16, 17-year-old me.
You never wanted to go in the direction of becoming a wrestler?
It's actually like a huge thing I would like to do still to this day. Recently, I just spent 3 months at home right before this tour, and I found a few friends of mine that work, or new friends of mine, if you will, that work at the gym that I go to. They're local professional wrestlers, if you will, and they showed me the location of their practice ring. And I did it like a couple weeks of taking falls and learning some things. And it would take, obviously a very long time. And I learned a lot from Marty throughout my life. And he would just suplex me literally in our living room. We would say, you're partying with, like a party with Marty, because he'll have, 18 beers. And then party with Marty, and you just get suplexed in the living room. Wild times. My first time actually moving out of my house as a rebellious teenager, Marty would always pull these pranks. He took all of my living room furniture, put it in front of my door, so I couldn't get out of my room. But he had done it like 5 or 6 times in a month. And finally this time, for whatever reason, that was just the breaking point. Don't know why. Doesn't really make sense to me. So I packed a bag and I moved to Alabama for 3 weeks.
Really?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
We were just in Alabama.
I'm glad we're not anymore. I can say that because I live 5 minutes from there. I live on the river between Georgia and Alabama. No offense, Alabama, only to some parts. WrestleMania, though, that was a good one.
I like watching you and my bassist Ollie watch wrestling.
Yeah. I noticed that we had a lot of different picks for this one.
Yeah, because we did
the pool of
who's going to win all the matches and everything. It was fun.
It was. I was really enjoyed it. Probably my favorite WrestleMania experience, actually. Cause
really?
At home, I'll do a grill out every pay-per-view, so like once a month, and I have a lot of people over. But this was kind of fun because I've never done a WrestleMania like in a bus or bandwagon, whatever have you. And
that's awesome.
We got to make some good vegan bus nachos, veggie bus nachos.
It was a good night.
Very much so.
We have many more good nights to come, Alexander Kendrick.
Oh, yeah. It's not stopping anytime soon.
And I appreciate you coming on Vox and Hops.
Yeah.
Answered some questions.
Definitely.
And, me and Kendrick are going to keep hanging out, but not with you guys.
Yep.
So cheers.
Unless you're coming to the show.
You should come to the show. Cheers.
Yep. Cheers. Thanks for having me, man.
Thank you all so much for listening right to the end. You Vox and Hops heads really, really appreciate it. I love my Alexander Kendrick. It's strange. You become so close with these people, these crew members, and then, you don't see them for like months sometimes, maybe even a year. And that was the case with Kendrick on this one. We did Devastation on the Nation in 2017, and then I didn't see him for like 2 years. And then as soon as we come back together, just reconnect, it's like a brotherhood that just finds its rhythm right away. I love you, Alexander Kendrick. I'm stoked to work with you again. I really appreciate all of you guys listening to Vox and Hops. I appreciate you guys sharing it. I appreciate all of you listening to it and telling your friends about it. There is no Vox and Hops without all of your support. So a big, huge cheers to all of you, the Vox and Hops fans, the Vox and Hops heads. Really, really appreciate it. If you have any suggestions, you have any comments, if you have any guests that you'd like to suggest for me to interview, some beers that you'd like me to taste, some beers that you would like to send to me, please hit me an email at matt@voxandhops.com. That's MATT at voxandhops.com, Vox and AND hops.com. I'm all ears. I'm super interested in hearing from you guys. Let me know what's up. Let me know what you're drinking. Just hit me up. Let me know. Next week on the podcast, to coincide with their EP release date, I have my conversation with the Slam King himself. Jason Evans, the singer of Ingested, is going to be on the podcast. You will hear the conversation that we just had on our tour together while we were in Berlin in this great, great craft beer place. Stoked to share that with you. Excellent, excellent conversation. Very excited to share that with you, and you guys should absolutely pick up their new EP, which is going to be dropping on June 14th. I hope you have a great weekend. I hope you have a great week. I hope you hang out with your loved ones. I hope you hang out with your friends. I hope you hang out with your family. And most importantly, I hope you drink great craft beer. Cheers, Vox and Hops heads.